What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Clearance Camo Podcast. I'm your host, the Clearance Camo Hunter. Appreciate you guys for tuning in today. Today, our sponsor is going to be Amend2 Magazines. You can check them out at amend2mags.com. Strongly recommend giving them a look. They have magazines for your AR needs. They also have some AR parts, working on a chassis system for your hunting rifles. So I really recommend you check those guys out. They are some pretty quality stuff. So check those guys out at amend2mags.com. I use them a lot. They also have some different types of magazines. So some of the harder to find things like the 6.5 Grendel or 6 Arc magazines. So check those guys out. They do some pretty decent stuff, and they're made in the USA. So I strongly recommend you check that out. They have some pretty funny gear in there as well. So you can get like a banana mag patch or sticker. Check out their apparel line too. I have a couple of their shirts, and they are super comfortable. So really recommend you guys take a look at that. Well, with today's episode, we're going to talk about some different kind of hacks that you can have hunting or fishing or just kind of an everyday life for the outdoorsman. So stay tuned, and we can kind of get some different things that maybe you've never thought about. And if you hear anything on the list that you do and you got a fun story for it, go ahead and hit me up with that story. You can shoot me an email at clearancecamo@gmail.com. So go ahead and let me know if you have any stories, or if there's anything on this list that you didn't hear. You know, if there's a hack that you know of that you want to bring to people's attention, let me know. Shoot me an email, and we can check some of those out. And maybe they'll make their way onto a hacks part 2. Who knows? But let's go ahead and jump right into it. So one of the things that I've talked about in my last podcast is just like when I was talking with Gage, we talked about that snack that you need, or that food that you have while you're hunting. And I left this out on purpose so that I could bring it to you guys now. One of the things that I really like to do is I like to bring a backpacking stove with me, and a little pot, and we boil some water while we're up there and have ourselves like a cup of noodles. You take your ramen packet, and you can have yourself a nice warm cup of noodles while you're on the hill freezing. So it's something that a lot of people don't do. They'll just kind of eat their sandwiches or whatever. But that cup of noodles, when it's freezing outside, that really warms you up and hits the spot. So check that out. Another cool thing you can do with that stove, you cook a Pop-Tart on it. You can buy little grills that you can stick over that stove. And I'll tell you what, when you woke up too early in the morning, you didn't want to make breakfast, or you did and it was just too small, you check out something like that Pop-Tart on that camping grill, and that's just phenomenal. I'll tell you what, it doesn't get much better than a nice warm Pop-Tart while you're hunting. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, well, when you're cooking on the hill, doesn't that scare the animals away? I've never really had that be an issue. It's just one of those things that I've done in the past, and I think it works out pretty well. But if you're not into doing that, you can also take like a grill fishing. I've taken the grill on the boat. It's just a little propane grill. It folds up real nice and compact. Take that on the boat, and you can have yourself the cheeseburger when the birds are calling for you. Cheeseburger. We also cook the bratwurst on there. So try taking a little grill on your boat next time you go fishing, or if you fish from the bank, get yourself a little grill you throw in the pickup, or in your car. Fits under the seat or in the trunk. They're not real big. They don't take up a whole lot of room, and when they're propane, you don't have to worry about all the charcoal and all that mess. You just you keep it pretty clean. I would say clean it off before you store it for long periods of time, because this way you don't get mice or other critters in your car. But definitely recommend you bring one of those while you're out and about. But while I was talking with Gage, we talked about the sandwiches and how you get that ooey gooey mess and you've got to pry them apart. They do make those sandwich protectors, and they work pretty darn well. So if you're into the sandwich thing, get the little protectors. They're super cheap. They work really well. Give that a try. So that's just something to kind of think about while you're, trying to get the munchies while you're hunting or fishing. But some other things that I've thought about too. When you're fishing, especially steelhead fishing, you go through leaders like crazy, and so I'd say tie up some leaders in advance. That's what we do. We tie up our leaders, and to keep them from getting all tangled up, we put them in a little piece of foam insulation that you stick over your pipes in the wintertime to keep them from freezing. So it's kind of like a pool noodle, but smaller and softer. And so we stick the hooks in there, wrap the line around it, and then use just a little bit of masking tape to keep it from unspooling. And it keeps them nice and orderly. And then you can pick your color that you want if you're changing colors, or you can pick your different baits, whatever you're doing. But you get a 1 foot section of tube, and you've got 10, 12 liters on there. So that works out pretty well. So give that a try. That's something a lot of guys, I haven't seen do that. I see a lot of guys trying to tie their leaders on the go or while they're on the water. And I'll tell you what, when you're on the water, the more time your hook's in the water, the better chance you have of catching a fish. So tie those up before you go, or when you head back to camp and it's dark. Tie those up, because let's face it, if you're steelhead fishing, it's not light for very long. So it gives you something a little bit to do in the evening. Kind of keep your hands busy and get ready for bed. It is a little bit of a monotonous work to tie those leaders, especially if you're tying a dozen of the same thing. Even if it's different colors, it's still the same knots. It's the same thing over and over again. So it gets monotonous, and it does get you ready for bed. So check that out. Another thing you can do, once you get all your stuff ready to roll, keep some of the extra gear in your pickup, or in your car, or whatever you're driving. Just keep some gear with you. I keep tackle box and a fishing pole in my truck just for that moment where I want to pull off and I want to just fish. If it's been a stressful day, and I want to just go out and I want to fish, that's what I do. I take that line out, that pole out, and I just keep it with me. And I have a couple different poles in my pickup. Actually, I have kind of like a shorty guy. It's a little bit longer than a nice fishing pole, but shorter than a regular fishing pole. And it works pretty good for just kind of some bank fishing or off the bridge or off the dock, whatever you're doing. And then I keep a normal size fishing pole on there, and it just works out really well for those stressful days. You don't want to have to go home and explain why you've had a bad day. It gives you that moment to go calm down and then figure out, just kind of get your head in the right space, I guess, and then you can move on from there. But yeah, just keep some of that extra gear in your pickup. If you're really into the coyote hunting or squirrel hunting, and you're in one of those areas where that's really common, keep yourself something that you can hunt those with. Just kind of shooting some ideas out there for you. One of the things that I do, though, is I have a gun rack in the back of my pickup, and I put my fishing poles on it. I used to have both my fishing poles up there. Now one of them's in the toolbox in the back and one's hanging up there. I don't actually recommend using those gun racks for your guns unless you're in the truck. I left some muzzleloaders in my truck because I was getting ready to go out and shoot them, and someone came out and stole my muzzleloaders out of my truck. So be careful with what you leave in your truck. That one was my fault, and you guys can all say, well, you're the dummy that left them there. And you're right, I was the dummy that left them there. I shouldn't have done that, but I've learned my lesson, and now those gun racks are for fishing poles, or hats. I've got a bunch of hats, but that's probably because I love hats. I don't have dark hair. I got pretty light hair, so I sunburn the top of my head pretty easy. Probably doesn't help that I've got a real bad widow's peak and a bald spot right at the top of my head. So, yeah, hats are kind of my best friend. But on that same line of keeping stuff, in your car or in your truck, make sure you keep yourself, a good set of knives. I keep a processing kit in my car, and it's nothing special. It's just something you'd pack on the hill. It's a skinning knife and a saw, basically. A gutting knife too. So I keep those in my truck. But if you've listened to my previous podcasts, you know that I will pick up roadkill, and I really don't have a problem with that. But you can get some pretty decent wall decor out of roadkill. And, a lot of you guys are just thinking, oh my heavens, I would never. Well, you know what? Some of us like that decoration. And I'm not going to go to Hobby Lobby and buy some fake antlers when, especially when the little ones, when they're all over the side of the road. Come December, they're everywhere. So I'm not super into buying the fake antlers when I can get them for real. As a matter of fact, right now I'm staring at a little 2-point mule deer. That kind of stuff, you can pick that up on the side of the road, no problem. And if you're not interested in the meat, whatever, Idaho has a way that you can tell them where the roadkill is and what you took, and you can literally say you just took the antlers. So if that's what you're into, go for it. I recommend you keep that kit in your car. The Leatherman that you have on you probably isn't going to work for that scenario and all the time. It might. But I don't like to dull up my Leatherman by chopping off a deer's head, But I mean, maybe you want to keep a knife sharpener in your truck too. So there's a novel idea for you. But on that same subject, if you're trying to keep stuff in your car, try and keep anything that you might need in your car. So I recommend you do like a bug out bag, and you have one for bugging out, and then you have one for play. So with that bug out bag, you're going to use for the play bug out bag, you got your tackle, you got some extra ammo or whatever, you've got your saw or whatever, your knife, your sharpening stone, whatever you want to use. Just basically a fun bag. I also keep a first aid kit on mine. I call it the ouch pouch. But I'm also quite accident prone, so that's just something that I keep with me. But also in that pack, I keep a few other things like some battery packs for your phone. So those little chargers for your phone, those are super handy to have with you. You never know when you're going to need that extra battery. And it could be something like, you're going out hunting and you keep your phone off and it's cold and the cold kills the battery. Well, you're going to want to take a picture of what you just shot. So you keep that battery pack with you just to charge your phone up enough to take a picture and maybe send out a text or whatever. Let people know you're okay. So keep some of those battery packs for your phone in there. It's kind of an extra safety. So if you have the car charger for your phone, this is in case, you can use it in case your battery on your car dies or whatever. You can also buy one of those like jumper kits that you can jumpstart a car with, but they also come with the 12-volt adapter, so you can plug your charger in for your phone. Those are pretty nifty to keep in your car. I wouldn't keep it in your fun bag, but I'd keep it in your car. They're pretty nice to have. Another thing that I keep in my bag is hand warmers. You always got to keep those on hand, but I live in Idaho where the weather changes consistently, or it doesn't change the way you want it to. So to give you an example, we're almost into April right now, and it's still snowing. It's snowing right now, actually. So, and we're expected to get snow for the next week. So it looks like we're going to have a white Easter. So the Easter egg hunt's going to be a little bit tricky this year. If you don't dye the eggs, it's going to be kind of like finding a piece of hay in a haystack. But it's got to be that special piece of hay, So, just something to keep on hand is some hand warmers. Some of the things that I wouldn't recommend like keeping food in your car for very long, especially if you live in an area with mice or rats, that pretty much covers all of us. So keep that that in mind. Don't keep the food in there, or if you do have it in there, find a way to keep the critters out. But the animals will get to whatever you have stowed in there. So try and keep that away. Another thing that I keep on in my bag is toilet paper. You never know what you're going to need it for. You could use it in case you got a bloody lip, a bloody nose, you got to do your business out in the woods. I keep toilet paper on hand. It comes in handy, and especially if you are, a family man. Toilet paper is like the save all. I've got 3 kids and another on the way, so bloody lips happen. And it's never intentional, but they happen, and so you got to use that for their lips or their noses, or if they got a runny nose, it's something to blow. So keep something like that with you. If you don't want to keep toilet paper in your truck, find a company that's giving away bandanas and take as many bandanas as you can. They work for the same thing, but they're not quite as biodegradable as toilet paper. So if you're doing your business outside, do your best to keep it clean. But moving on, another thing to do is to try your survival gear. So whatever gear you would normally put in your bug out bag, try it out. So one of the things that I see a lot of people using are the fish hooks that are like stamped into a piece of metal that's about the size of a credit card. Try those out. See how they work. Slap it on your fishing pole, or use your bug out fishing pole and try it out. See if you can actually catch a fish on that, and see how well they actually work. I bought one online a while back, and it was really, really cheap. I wouldn't recommend keeping it in your wallet, because as soon as I put it in my wallet, it bent and all the hooks popped out and they were barbed, and so then I had to pry that out of my wallet. But once I actually tried to use it for fishing, it's a soft metal, so the hooks bent really easily. And so I'm glad that I tried it before I ever had to use it in my personal, survival needs. This way I knew that wasn't going to hold up against anything bigger than, a minnow, basically. So try those out. Try basically whatever you have for survival for fun, and on top of that, try your food out. If you're using ration bars, try eating those and see what you need to make them edible. I've eaten my fair share of the ration bars, and one thing you definitely need is water, because if you don't have any water, it's just gonna be like swallowing sawdust. But it'll keep you alive, but just keep that in mind. So whatever you're going to use it before you have to, and keep it on hand. So buy 2 of whatever and use it before. So this way you kind of get an idea of what you need out there. Another thing that I kind of really like to emphasize on is, get a firearm that you feel comfortable with, that you can use for that random coyote or the random squirrel or whatever. And I'm not saying to keep it in your car at all times, but if you're going to carry, like, for instance, you can see a coyote on the side of the road, and you have your 38 special or your 9mm on you, and you want to pop it. All right, well, you don't want to use your hollow points on it. Carry some extra ammo with you. You can keep loose ammo in your car or whatever, or in your bug out bag, and use that. If you got your 9mm and you buy an extra magazine and you put some ammo in there for that, sweet. That works out pretty good. I know a lot of guys have like a truck gun, and typically you're talking like an AR or something like that. Out here, that's pretty common. Pick up another Amend 2 magazine and fill it up with some VMAX rounds and see what you can drop with that. So, if you see a coyote out there with your pistol AR, just throw a new mag in and take a shot with that. So it's not a terrible idea to keep a gun with you, just in case you see something. Or I know some guys that they keep a little like Heritage 22 revolver in their car. And they do that for when they decide to go for a short hike or something and they want to shoot a squirrel, or they see a snake, they shoot it, So keep a gun on you for the random things. One thing that I do recommend you always do is always keep a multi-tool with you. That's something that I almost always have on me is my multi-tool, and I use it so much. I use the pliers for everything. Digging out slivers, I've dug out ingrown toenails with them, pulling out stray hairs out of the nose, twisting wire, cutting hooks and all sorts of stuff. I just recommend you keep something like that with you and make sure it's always in good functioning condition so that you can get your whatever you need done. I think it's a great opportunity to keep that on you because you never know when you're going to need it. And don't go out and buy the cheapest of the cheap because you're never going to get anything done with it. The knives are never going to stay sharp. You're never going to be able to use the can opener because it'll dull or bend on you or break on you. Get something that's quality and something that's going to have the tools that you can foresee yourself using. And if you need to, buy more than one. Put one in your tackle box, put one in your bug out bag, put one in your fishing bug out bag. I've got several of them and I have them all over the place. And the reason I do that is because I never know when I'm going to need one. And so they are everywhere. And I use them all the time. As a matter of fact, my wife will constantly look at me and be like, I need a knife. And I'll joke and say, oh, I don't have one. Baloney, you don't have one. I know for a fact you have one. You probably have 2 or 3. And she's right, and I do. Because I always have a pocket knife and I always have my Leatherman. Occasionally I'll have another pocket knife with me. You just never know what you're going to need. So take a look at that. Keeping one of those on you. Another thing you can keep with your gear is to get like another license. So I like to keep a second fishing license with my tackle box that's in my truck. This way, if I don't have my wallet or whatever, I have my license in my tackle box. And if I have a trip coming up, I like to get a second license and I'll put it in my tackle box. Or when I'm hunting, I actually like to put my hunting, like a spare hunting license. I have a pocket in my sling. I like to keep my a spare hunting license in there. This way, like I have the license. And then before I go anywhere, I always make sure that I have my permits and my tags for whatever I'm doing. But just kind of keep that extra bit with you so that if you ever do get in trouble or you get stopped, you have something, like a get out of jail free card. And so, an extra license in Idaho is like $7, I think. So that's a lot cheaper than a ticket, I'll tell you what. So just kind of keep that in mind with you. Another thing that I think would be great to keep in your bag or in your fishing stuff, stainless steel. It gets rid of the smell of fish. So get that stainless steel bar that they sell, or just some stainless steel, and you can wash your hands with that like it's soap, and it gets the smell of fish or garlic or whatever you've got on your hands. It gets that off. So strongly recommend you get something like that in there. But also keep some regulations in your car or in your bag. It's not a bad idea to keep them in your car, your bathroom, your living room, with your gear, at your desk at your office. Just keep the regulations with you. Study them whenever. And anytime you go out, always have the regulations with you, or at least somewhere nearby. So if you're going hunting, put them in your four-wheeler or in your pickup. So this way you have those rules and regulations. Yeah, so if you ever have any sort of questions, you can take a look at that. When you're fishing, I recommend you keep them in your tackle box. That's a great place for them, for your fishing rigs. So keep an eye on that. I also recommend you keep some binoculars in your car. If you ever go on a drive or whatever. I've been in that scenario multiple times where I've been on a drive and I wanted to see what was on the side of a mountain, and I didn't have any binoculars, so I'm out there with my phone trying to zoom in to see what it is. buy yourself an inexpensive pair of binoculars, but not a cheap pair of binoculars. And for those of you that don't know the difference, a cheap pair of binoculars is going to show you this very blurry image way out there. An inexpensive pair of binoculars is going to show you a clear image, but not as far away. But if you can see it from the road, I think a pair of binoculars is pretty nice to have. So I have a pretty inexpensive pair of binoculars in my vehicles just for that occasion. I go up to Jackson Hole quite a bit, and there's always wildlife on the side of the road. And so it's nice to drive by and take the binoculars out, take a look. You know, even though I'm not hunting or whatever, it's nice to see it and know what I'm looking at. I do enjoy the beauty of the outdoors and wildlife. So, binoculars are great to have with you. Another thing to have is grocery sacks. Those plastic grocery sacks that we all, apparently everybody hates. I recommend you keep some of those in your car. Keep them in your tackle box. You never know if you got to put a fish in it. You got to put your used bandanas in it. Whatever you got to use. It's nice to keep things cleaner. And it's easier to throw things away when they're in that. It doesn't stop the scent, but it helps with scent. So, I keep those all over, actually, in my diaper bag. I keep a stash of them in there for when I get that dirty diaper. I can toss it in there and then walk it wherever I need to walk it. But then I'm not holding on to that stink bomb as I'm walking around. So those grocery sacks are an absolute lifesaver. Another thing that I would recommend you keep with you is a tarp. But I may be in the minority here, but there's a lot of times I could use a tarp. You're picking up something on the side of the road. That tarp is great. Or if you're just trying to cover something up, that tarp is phenomenal. Another cool thing is it doesn't necessarily have to be a tarp. It could be one of those windshield covers that you use for the snow so that your windshield doesn't get all frosted over. Even keeping one of those in your car, in the wintertime, you put it over your windshield so when the snow is falling, you don't have so much snow packed up on your window. But if you have to throw something in your car that's going to make a mess, you got something to put it on. So that's just it's a pretty nifty idea to keep something in your car. Or, if you're one of those good Samaritans that will pick up an animal like a dog that's been hit by a car that's still alive but wounded, keeps the blood out of your seats. So it's a good idea to have something like that with you at all times. But I think we can kind of get away with what to pack, because right now, if you followed this list, you've got your vehicle loaded up like you're about to go on a week-long trip. You kind of got a gypsy wagon going, I'm sure. That's where you got to start to learn, what size matters and things like that. But you can pretty much put all that stuff in a backpack and keep it in the trunk or in the back seat. You can take care of that. They sell those plastic deals that go on the back of your seat, and it's the MOLLE attachments, and so you can use something like that to kind of hold all that together. A little bit of organization there. But I got a couple of ideas for you to keep yourself entertained. I know a lot of guys, when they go out fishing by themselves, they get pretty bored. So I would recommend you download something like a podcast or an audiobook to listen to while you're fishing. I kind of recommend the podcast because, well, not only do I do one, but on top of that, you get that sensation where somebody's talking to you, and if you zone out, it's not a huge deal. Whereas a book, when you zone out, you miss a key part. I mean, for an audiobook, you may miss something that's super important. My first year steelhead fishing, I listened to Kill a Mockingbird, and it's not one of those things you want to zone out on. But like a podcast like this, it's not very hard to zone out of. So, when you do snap back into it, you may be catching on to some good ideas. And if it's something that makes you laugh or whatever, You can rewind it pretty easy, but I kind of recommend you get it like a podcast or something like that. Something that is good background noise for those of you who can't fish with the sound of the water. Podcasts are a great way to go. Who knows? Maybe you'll download this one or some of my other ones. If you're looking at something to listen to while you're fishing, I recommend you get the ones where I have a guest, like my last one with Gage. That's a good one to listen to while you're fishing. It's something you can kind of just tune into here and there, but not worry about too much. I have another one coming up next week. Then I'm going to have Gage and Cody on, and so I recommend you listen to that as well. But another thing that if you're by yourself, which I don't necessarily recommend, but I do it myself, so take it with a grain of salt. But if you're by yourself, especially if you're camping, in the evenings, I have a hard time winding down, especially when I have no one to talk to. I can't tell anyone about my day if there's no cell service or anything like that. And so I drive myself up the wall. So get yourself something that'll entertain yourself. Get a little like wind up radio that you can listen to. Or maybe download a movie or something. Maybe pack a DVD player, whatever it takes to keep your mind from going crazy. I've sat down and I watched Batman I don't know how many times because that was the movie I had downloaded, and so that's what I watched. Or a Goofy movie. I've watched a Goofy movie hundreds of times because that's what I had downloaded and that's what I watched while I was out by myself. And I don't know, it keeps my mind at ease, and it gives me something to kind of doze off to. So just give yourself something to do while you're in the outdoors by yourself. But if I had one tip that I would really like to carry on to everybody, one hack, is to keep a little bit of cash on hand. And I don't mean, keep $3,000 on your wallet. No, I mean keep, $40 in your tackle box or in your glove compartment or wherever, keep about $40 with you. And I don't mean for extra gas money, and I don't mean for in case you gotta pay somebody to get the keys out of your car. This is ice cream money. Keep that money on hand for when you're done fishing, you're done hunting, and just you want ice cream or you want that bologna sandwich or whatever it is. That money is there as treat money. It's there just to keep you something to look forward to. So if you notice, my name's the Clearance Camo Hunter. Just because I buy clearance clothes doesn't mean I have a ton of money. So with the clearance camo comes little money, but it is nice to keep that cash on hand for that ice cream cone or that fountain drink or whatever it is. If a lot of this came by because when I have a bad day, I like to just on my way home stop off, go fishing, tell my wife I'm going to be late, and I go fishing. Sometimes I'll grab an ice cream cone, eat my ice cream while I'm fishing, or I'll fish for a little bit and be like, you know what, the ice cream home might just cool me down enough to where I can finally stand to be around more people. So just keep a little bit of cash on you for that treat money. It also helps if you have kids. If you've ever been in that scenario where you have, you accidentally gave your kid a flat tire by stepping on the back of their heel in the grocery store, and then it was just a never-living meltdown or whatever it is. Or if you're that guy that was roughhousing with the kids and accidentally broke their arm, that treat money comes in handy for more than just you. Buy them ice cream, or if your wife wants a cup of coffee after you made her mad, go buy her a cup of coffee. It's more than just treat money for you. I do recommend you keep as much as you can for you, but I'm sure a lot of us have been in that boat where we made mama mad and we had to find a way to make it better quick. So run down to the local coffee shop, grab a coffee to go, and bring her home with a, I'm sorry written in the cream on top or whatever you're into. I drink black coffee, so it's hard to write I'm sorry in that, but my wife loves the creamer, so I'm sure I could find somebody that'll write I'm sorry in it. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you guys hear any other sort of hacks for hunting or fishing or outdoors, just simple hacks that a lot of people don't think of, shoot me an email at clearancecamo@gmail.com. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Stay tuned. We're going to have a giveaway starting on our next episode. I'll tell you guys how you can enter to win that. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Can't wait to hear from you guys. As always, aim slow, shoot fast. Have a great time.